Welcome into the San Francisco 49ers Report. My name is Chase Sr., and coming up here on the show, Brock Purdy signed that massive contract extension on Friday, and we have more evidence that that Purdy deal is a steal for the San Francisco 49ers. To set the foundation here is that contract, the biggest pay raise in the course of NFL history, the biggest contract handed out to a Niners player in the history of San Francisco's organization. A 5-year deal worth $265 million. Purdy gets $181 million in guaranteed money, and that rounds out to an average annual value of $53 million per season. And really with that contract, considering what the quarterback market is, and the fact that Purdy signed this deal in an offseason where no other quarterbacks going into their second contract signed a contract, Purdy took a discount with this deal. And you look at the top 10 highest paid quarterbacks in the National Football League, remember all of that chatter, all of that talk about Purdy taking down Dak Prescott as the highest paid quarterback in NFL history, but that would have made him the highest paid player in the history of the NFL. Well, this Purdy deal doesn't come anywhere close to Dak Prescott's $60 million. Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Jordan Love, Trevor Lawrence, all there at $55 million. Tua Tagovailoa, the sixth highest paid quarterback per year at $53 and a dime. Purdy alongside Jared Goff there at $53 even. Justin Herbert at $52 and a half. Lamar Jackson at $52, rounding out that top 10 list. And some of you might say, wait, Purdy's getting paid more than Herbert and Lamar? Herbert and Lamar signed those contracts a couple of years ago at this point. Jordan Love and Trevor Lawrence were last year, in addition to Tua Tagovailoa. And when you look at the quarterbacks on this list, I'd rather take Brock Purdy over Dak Prescott. I would take Brock Purdy over Jordan Love. I would side with Brock Purdy over Trevor Lawrence. Brock Purdy, no doubt, is better than Tua Tagovailoa. And the only argument that people have against Purdy being better than the likes of Love or Trevor Lawrence is that they have more athleticism. They're bigger bodies with the stronger arm. But Purdy has accomplished more in his NFL career as far as playoff success than Lamar, Justin Herbert, Jared Goff, Tua Tagovailoa, Trevor Lawrence, Jordan Love, almost as much success as Joe Burrow, as Burrow and Purdy have both made it to one Super Bowl, and Purdy has had so much more playoff level success than Dak Prescott, and he's been in the league since 2022, has Purdy. The going rate for quarterbacks of Purdy's caliber and with what he's done starts at $50 million. Purdy could have gotten, I think, 55 plus from another team. Instead, the Niners get him for $53 million per season. And so this deal does not reset the market. The rumors of Purdy getting 60 or more per year doesn't even sniff that. $53 million on average annual value soon will not be top 10. What do you mean, Chase? Well, the NFL salary cap is going to continue to be on the uptick. And some of these young quarterbacks are going to cash in for $60 to $70 million per year. It will not surprise me if at some point in the next 5 years, after Patrick Mahomes got $500 million a few years ago at $500 million, that a quarterback closes in on a $1 billion contract. The guaranteed money, lower than I thought it was going to be. The team structure of this deal is very team-friendly. Purdy is technically under contract for the next 6 years. That average annual value goes down from $53 to $45 million per season. This contract counts against the cap for San Francisco, 18.9%. That's 14th in the NFL. Purdy gets $100 million at signing. That's 12th among quarterbacks. And last year, San Francisco had the second most injured offense in the league. And Purdy still put up these numbers, and I think that he can continue to get better and improve because he's still a young player who's entering his third season as a starter in this league. Purdy in 2024, number 2 in explosive rating, number 2 in passer rating against zone, number 3 in yards per attempt, number 3 in pressured completion percentage behind this bad offensive line, number 4 in success rate, number 5 in EPA per attempt, number 6 in QBR, and number 8 in deep ball completion rate. I thought he couldn't throw the long ball. I thought he sucked in 2024. Those numbers, they go against the grain if you're trying to make that argument. And then there's this from Bill Barnwell, who covers the NFL from ESPN. And it's just further specifics that highlight some of the nuances of this Purdy contract. Purdy's average salary on this new deal, $53 million. That amounts to about 19% of the current salary cap, $279.2 million. Here's a list of guys since 2020 who have signed multi-year extensions as their second contracts, the percentage of the cap their deals represented at the time, and what their average annual value would amount to if we translate it to the current cap environment. Here's a look at this quarterbacks. Joe Burrow, 24.5%. $68.4 million right there. Josh Allen, 23.6. That would be $65.9 million per year. Didn't I just say these QB contracts are going to continue to get pricier and pricier? And soon we'll see these deals be between 60, 70, maybe even more. Well, that's basically what these contracts were at the time if you translate it to modern day. Justin Herbert, his deal would have accounted for 23.4 against the cap at $65.3 million per year. You see Kyler Murray there, Jalen Hurts, then you flip the page, and it's followed by Patrick Mahomes, Trevor Lawrence, Tua Tagovailoa, and Deshaun Watson. So Purdy comes in much cheaper than those quarterbacks that we just highlighted. More from Bill Barnwell here. Average annual value isn't the best or only measure of contract value, and we'll know more about the guaranteed structure when the full details come out. But the only quarterback who signed a smaller multi-year extension with his existing team since 2020 than Purdy by average annual value, when you count that salary against the cap, 17.8% for Daniel Jones of the New York Giants. How about that? When you're compared to Daniel Jones, not in the sense of quarterback play, but in the sense of contract value, that is a win for San Francisco and Brock Purdy. Since becoming the Niners starter in 2022, Purdy has top 10 numbers all across the board. And the Niners are getting him when he's taking this contract at a bargain at $53 million, and Brock Purdy and his agent agreed to that deal and took that contract while counting in California taxes. Dak Prescott at $60 million per year, that money goes a lot longer of a way as compared to Brock Purdy at $53 million in California, in Santa Clara, the San Francisco area, in Northern California. In Texas, no state income tax. That is not the case in California, where I also know that renters' prices and those of you who are trying to buy homes, that number just got approved to go up way higher. Shout out to Gav. Sorry to interrupt this video, but a quick reminder to subscribe to us here on the San Francisco 49ers Report. My name is Chase Sr. If you want to be informed every single day on the Niners, I have you covered. Lock us in and hit that sub button. Coming up next here on the show, how did the Brock Purdy deal come together? Some interesting insight from NFL insider Albert Breer, and we'll dive into that next. First, if you want a Brock Purdy jersey, get it right now. Chatsports.com/49jersey. If you're confident that Purdy is going to be this team's franchise quarterback and have loads of success over the next several years, you better get these jerseys now before they run out. Thanks to our friends at Fanatics. If you want another Niners jersey, plenty of options available, plenty of looks and sizes available, and you can also get some former players' jerseys as well, like Joe Montana, Jerry Rice. You can get the rookie in Michael Williams. So I will put that link down below in the show notes and attached to the pinned comment of today's San Francisco 49ers Report. It's chatsports.com/49jersey. Get your jerseys. Support the Niners well before the 2025 season gets underway. As for how this Purdy deal came together, Albert Breer with a column yesterday saying all of this, and I'll react to it on the fly, that going into the 2024 season, coming off that Super Bowl, agent Kyle Strongen asked Purdy if he wanted to discuss his priorities for the life-changing second contract he'd be eligible for in 2025. Purdy said he'd rather lock in on football and cross that bridge after the year. Classic Purdy. Things didn't exactly go to plan thereafter. While the Niners finished 4th in total offense and Purdy was 7th in QBR, the team collapsed under a rash of injuries and finished the second half of the season 2-6. A cap purge followed, but the team's plan at quarterback didn't relent. Strongen told Purdy before the combine to be prepared to get a deal done on the first day of training camp. Part of that is just how these things go. And part was probably what the Niners went through the past few summers with Deebo Samuel, Nick Bosa, and Brandon Ayuk. John Lynch said early on he wanted to avoid that with Purdy after the sides had their initial meeting in February that seemed to be the course set. Yet here we are now with a deal 2 months ahead of schedule. Good on the Niners for changing their philosophy there. That isn't to say that this all happened in a straight line. The Niners made the first move, asking Purdy's side to make a trip to Santa Clara for an initial negotiating session. The second meeting happened over dinner at the Combine at Indianapolis's iconic St. Elmo's Steakhouse, where a few things were established. We went there for the NFL Combine, the shrimp cocktails, as advertised. A little bit spicy with that horseradish, Chip and I know, but the meal was fire. More from Breer here. In the first meeting, the Niners got their point across that they weren't going to break records with the contract. Good on San Francisco. It's good that they set that precedent. At the second meeting and that expectation, in Indy, it was established that Purdy's side wasn't going to do a deal that didn't have a strong cash flow, structure, and guarantees. Things that would affirm that he was San Francisco's guy for the foreseeable future. The result, there was a lot of work to do at that time. The following breaking point came with the start of the offseason program. The Niners have been through the game of players and contract disputes, skipping in the spring before, in this case with it being a quarterback, and to avoid that particular checkpoint in the calendar push movement with Strongen and San Francisco cap chiefs, Parag and Brian Hampton, who actually worked together in 2008 and 2009 when Strongen was a scouting assistant, finding compromises. What did I say time and time again this offseason? And I was right on this once again. Got to get this deal done early, especially with it being a quarterback. The Niners agreed. Might as well hire me inside the front office. As such, Breer continued. Purdy, who didn't want things to get ugly, reported for the offseason program that brought the unspoken acknowledgement that talks had gotten serious, with Hampton and Strongen working together to get there, and there was a deal to be executed. At the end of last week, Strongen called Hampton, looking for one last concession, promising a deal if Purdy got it. Hampton called Parag, John Lynch, and Kyle Shanahan, who were on a golf trip, and the 5-year, $265 million deal was pushed over the goal line. The deal didn't break records on the Niners' side. On Purdy's side, it did more or less commit the Niners for the foreseeable future. One thing that Purdy and Strongen wanted is that no trade clause. Purdy got that. The contract has $165 million in new money over the first 3 years, which edged out a metric of Jared Goff's deal last year. That means that he'll get $170 over the first 4 years of the deal. Goff's deal was an important comparison because both sides saw it as one that didn't break records, but did well by the player in many different ways. I agree with that. Purdy also gets $215 million in new money over the first 4 new years, which means he'll make $220.3 over the first 5 years of the deal. That leaves $50 million in 2030, the final year of the 6-year, $270.346 million deal, which tells you this isn't a heavily backloaded deal with a bloated number at the end to make it look prettier, something Purdy's camp wanted to avoid. By comparison, he'll make $55 and a nickel in 2028 and $49.95 in 2029. If Purdy continues to play at a top 10 level, by the way, and he's making less than $50 million in 2029, my goodness, what a steal. Purdy also gets 62% of his money in the first 3 years, which tops the cash flow in most of the richer quarterback contracts done. Purdy got that no trade clause, which was off the table initially, and a first for the 49ers. Niners throwing that in, that's fine because they have the short-term security. They didn't backload this contract. It's front-loaded, which means they're going to pay a lot of money the first few years, which means if it goes awry, if this becomes a mess, and if it ends up being a failure, the Niners can get out of it, and it's not going to crush them as an organization. More evidence right there, ladies and gentlemen, that this Purdy deal is a steal for San Francisco. Do you like this Purdy contract? Like or dislike? Type that down in the comment section. What say you? We'll be back later with another show, so be on the lookout for that because the grind and the content don't stop, baby.